Hello, hello. Welcome back. Or if you're new, welcome. My name is Brianna from BL Budgeting, and I love to talk all about budgets, cash envelopes, debt, savings, goals, tips, anything like that. If you're interested, I would really appreciate your support if you could like and subscribe. And then I'm always taking suggestions. This video is actually a suggestion or question that I had from Rosa, who is a big supporter of mine ever since starting this journey on Etsy and then on YouTube. She's been there and she hasn't left. So hi, Rosa. I really, really appreciate you. You don't know how much this means to me. So her question was, how does she know what debts to pay off in what order? So in 2020, I was in a stupid amount of debt. And I just say that because it was for dumb reasons. I had traded in a paid off car that was a Honda that could have lasted me so much longer, but I was bored with it. So I got a brand new 2020 Kia Soul, which I did like it, but it was so much money per month. And it was kind of like, ooh, that's pretty, I want to buy it. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about how I was jumping into a brand new payment that I'm going to have for years and years. And it was a very high interest rate. So I had a car loan. I had student loan debt, which I always paid the minimums on. I never looked at my total balance, realizing that it was going up, which is my own fault. I did not do the math. I did not calculate. I didn't even think about how I was going to pay it off. I just paid it and said, yep, I'm done with that. And then credit cards. My highest amount of total credit card debt was $22,000. For what, you ask? I don't know. My dog was spoiled. I had 3 cats. They were spoiled. I had a closet full of clothes. I had multiple personal trainers, and they were just through Instagram. So they would set me up with a workout plan, a meal plan, and we would do evaluations like every week. But I honestly, and this is really personal, I think that most of that debt came from insecurities and self-doubt and just thinking that if I had nicer clothes, if I had, pretty blonde hair that had highlights in it, it was so damaged, but that I spent all this money on my looks and pretty things, that I would be happy, but I really wasn't happy. And I know that I'm not the only person who goes through this, and that's just why I wanted to share that. But that's my background and my history with debt. So my highest debt was $77,000. That's the car, the student loans, and my personal debt. As of 2025, so about 5 years later, I've managed to get that down to $21,000. I still have to update my balances for February, but I'm so excited. I'm so happy. It's so easy to just make choices that you didn't really think through. Okay, so I'm going to go through what has helped me the most in paying off $50,000 in 5 years when I didn't make a lot of money. But I mean, so since then I have gotten promoted, so that definitely helped. But that did not take away the bigger chunk of my debt. That was when I was making less money. When I had more minimum payments, I was able to get that down. So first, I'm just going to go over tips that helped me, and then I'll go over ways to choose what debts you're going to pay off and how. So first, you know what I'm going to say. You need to have a budget. You need to know what are all of your debts, what are all of the minimum payments for them, and how much do you have available to put down towards debt. So in your budget, you're going to have your regular bills, you're going to have your debt, you're going to have your savings, and you're going to have your variable expenses. So this is things such as groceries, gas, pet food, things that you spend every month, or you think that you'll spend every month, but they're not always the same price. So this is how you'll break down your budget. Now, always consider worst case scenario. So your income, if it varies, you need to look back at your previous few paychecks and see what was your minimum income and what affected that. What do you expect to get for your next few paychecks? If you know that you are going to have overtime, I still wouldn't add that in because anything could happen. What if you budget for having overtime and you throw a lot of money towards debt and then you don't get that overtime? So you need to be prepared and be very honest with yourself about what you have available, not what you wish you had available. So you have your income. This is your worst case scenario. And also do your worst case scenario with your bills. So if it's the winter and you're in a cold climate right now, you want to think about what is the worst case that my electric bill could be? Am I using heat all the time? Things like that. And your grocery bill. Don't say, I want to only spend $200 this month, but for the past few months, you've been spending $400. You can't just say, I'm going to do this before you actually do it, because it could be a lot harder than you think. If you're trying to drop down your bills, do it little by little. So this will also be worst case scenario. Savings. You should write down your list, your goals of savings, but always make sure that you have an emergency fund just in case anything happens, because the amount of times that I went back into debt because I did not have an emergency fund, I couldn't count it on two hands. I had, and they weren't even emergencies. I just didn't have backup money. Now, I did have one emergency for my dog. She grabbed a fishing hook, but thankfully that wasn't very expensive. However, I didn't have $300 lying around. That is not good. You need to have that extra money just in case, so you don't go back into debt. So you have an emergency fund for your savings. And honestly, most people start with $1,000, but if you have kids or something, if you're taking care of your parents, something like that, you might want to bump that up, but that's totally up to you. Other savings goals, honestly, I would make them minimal, very, very minimal, while I'm trying to attack my debt. So that's what I did when I first started. I made a budget. It was very, very slim. I wish I had an emergency fund, but I didn't. So I threw everything towards debt. Every penny. I sold. You can pick up more jobs. Sell things on Marketplace. Do you have a hobby that you could turn into a little side job? Anything like that. Try to think about what you're good at. So you have your bills, you have your debt, you have your savings, and you have your variable expenses. So for your debt now, you're going to see what is left in your budget. You have your income minus bills, minus variable expenses, minus savings. Whatever you have left, you should put towards your debt. Knowing this number will give you a very good idea and clue on how long it could take you to pay off your debt, because there's so many calculators out there, and it'll be motivating. At first, it might be a little upsetting, but just seeing that you can pay them off eventually will be motivating. I promise you. So once you have your debt number, this is how much you can afford to pay off. What are your minimum payments? If you're able to spare $300 in your budget, but your minimum payments are only $220, that's good. That's very good. Any difference, any extra that you can put down is always a good thing. Okay. So once you have your numbers, you can start planning. Now, these are going to be the steps that I think that you should take when planning out the debts that you're going to pay off. So first, write down all of your debts. And you should include the name, the interest rate, the minimum payment. And then if it's a balance transfer, you should write down when that balance transfer is over. So a balance transfer, if you're not familiar, that is when you would move credit card money that has a 20% interest on it to a credit card that has 0% interest. Now, 0%. Now, what's the catch? Because that is too good to be true. How they get you is there's a fee, but if you do the math, the fee might be a lot less than what you would be paying in the long run anyways. So their fee might be anywhere from like 3 to 5% of your total balance. So if you were going to pay less than that in the long run, when you are paying this off, you should not do the balance transfer because it's not going to save you any money. If with your 20%, you're going to pay more, then yes, you should definitely do this. This is added onto your credit card balance as soon as you open the new balance transfer. So your balance would be the amount that you moved over. Let's just say it's $1,000. And then they add on this fee. So if it were a 3% balance transfer fee, then that would be $30. So your new total is $1,030. If you were going to spend more than that on here, you should definitely take this. This is the route to go. However, another way that they get you in, because they don't make it clear in their fine print, you cannot keep using this credit card. As soon as you increase that balance, it's going to mess everything up. You're going to get charged more interest. You do not want to do that. You want to keep it at $1,000 and then pay it off every month. They still have monthly payments, minimum payments, things like that. And then also you need to look at if there was a limit on this, for one, for how much money you can transfer over, but two, they usually have like a 6 month to a few years limit. After that 6 months is up, if you didn't pay off this money, then they're going to charge you interest. Now, some of them will charge you interest on the initial amount. Some of them will charge you interest on what's left and what you didn't pay off yet. So I always like to add in, if you have a balance transfer, which I currently have one right now, you want to pay that off before the interest rate gets added, because then you're kind of going backwards. So you took the balance transfer so you can get 0% interest. Now you don't want interest added on because it's going to put you behind a little bit. So if you have a balance transfer, that's all that I'm saying. Look at your date that the interest would start accruing or being added on. So once you have all of that written down, now you have a clear picture and you're going to feel a little bit more at ease, because you can see that a plan is coming. You can see all of the damage that was done, and now it's time to make a plan. Now, number 2, pick a method. Now, luckily, and I will leave the link in the description, and I'll probably do a whole video on how to use it, but there's a website that is completely free, or at least it was when I was using it, and it's called Vertex 42. It's an Excel spreadsheet, but it's broken down very clear, and you don't have to worry about formulas or anything like that. It literally has a box where you put all of your debts, and then it has a section where you would choose the order that you want to pay them off. And you could also, they call it I think it's initial snowball payment, that you can give to your highest priority debt right off the bat, and then the rest of the months you'll be paying a certain amount that you chose. So let's say that you are going to pay, that you can afford to pay $500 towards your debts. Ooh, I can't write. $500 towards your debts every month. But it's Christmas time and you got some cash, or you got a bonus, or you had overtime. When you're starting this, you can just initially throw that money down, and then every month after that, it'll do $500. That's how it calculates it. So it can be really, really helpful. I really think that the initial snowball is a nice option, but my most important option that I like to have in a debt payment calculator, that's actually what this would be called. The option that I like is you get to choose the order that you pay off your debts in. So as you've probably heard, there is a debt snowball method. There is an avalanche method. And then what I really like is that you can, let's say you have a balance transfer, and that has 0% interest. So it's not really going to register on the avalanche method because that starts with your highest interest. I want to pay off that balance transfer. It's due in 2 months. I don't want to get all the interest. So, or it could be just a debt that keeps you up at night. It stresses you out. It was from a stressful time period in your life, or it's just something stupid and you want to get rid of it. So I'm going to call that the mental health. Or just, choice. So this would be, you can place your debts in the order that you want. These choose for you. So the debt snowball method of paying off debt would go by lowest balance first. This has nothing to do with interest rates. All that it has to do with is seeing progress and getting more motivated because you're paying off a few debts quickly because they have small balances. However, of course, there's cons to it. So the pro would be you're seeing progress and you're motivated. The con is that overall, it could take longer to pay this off. Than some of the other methods because the interest is building on the other methods. And then another con is obviously you could, and you probably will, pay more interest because these over here are in order by interest rate, which means you're saving money. Over here, this just has to do with your total balance. So you're paying off your small credit cards. However, you have student loans that have an incredible interest rate right now. They are just growing at a fast rate because typically you would put all of your effort into your first debt and then pay minimums on every other debt, which means those other debts with higher interest rates, they're going to build and build and they're going to grow because you're only making minimum payments. So honestly, what I did when I was paying off a lot of money is I started with this one. Then I went over to this one. Then I went over to, I bounced around seeing what worked for me at that time. And there's no wrong answer here because these all will have you moving forward in some sort of way, which is the goal. You just want to have less debt than you did the day before. You're just making progress. That's it. You do not want to add to your debt. That is the only way that you're moving behind. But even then, if something happens and you have to add to your debt, you can move forward. The avalanche is by highest interest rate. That would be the order of debt that you pay off, and then everything else you pay the minimum payment. The pro is that you are saving a lot of money in interest. However, it could take you a long time to get to those little credit cards because you're focusing on a student loan that is $13,000. So it really depends on, don't just automatically go to this because you want to save money and that's what you want to do. What will keep you going? Knowing that you're not paying interest, or seeing progress, or getting rid of the stupid debt that you had from a few years ago. Whatever will keep you going is the option that's right for you. So this one would be whatever makes you continue. And so whatever makes you continue making those debt payoffs, you can do this temporarily. Absolutely, you can do this completely and make your own order of debt payoff. You can literally do any of these and switch back and forth and do whatever you want. I'm going to add balance transfers here because you want to make sure, like I said, you pay them off on time. This handwriting is so sloppy. Now that is one reason why I really like Vertex 42. And there's a few spreadsheets out there, but like I said, the important things that I look for mostly is this. You can choose, most spreadsheets have these two, but when a spreadsheet has where you can make your own decision of the debt payoff order, that is what I really like, because that means that you can play around with your numbers and the order that you want to pay off your debts. And you can say, yes, I'm okay with taking 3 years or 7 years if I can just get this one out of the way, and then I'll take care of this one, and then that one will be freed up. Whatever you want to do. I love having this because it gives you a lot more options. And also, whenever you have the calculator, you can play around with everything and just see what works for you. Do you have a certain day? Do you have a certain month that you want to be debt free? Are you Are you also saving for something big like a wedding or a house and you don't want to have any extra debt? That's nice to use a calculator for because you can really see when you'll be debt free. So just because that was kind of a mess, I'm just going to write it neater, make it a little bit more clear. So first, write your budget. See how much you have left. Two, write down your debts. And don't forget if you have balance transfers, or you can look into getting a balance transfer. So you can get balance transfer offers from credit cards that you don't have. You can also get the offers from credit cards that you do have. Now be careful, you only want to use this on a credit card that you have a zero balance on currently. So you write down all of your debts. Don't forget if you have balance transfers, or you can sign up for a new one. And then you choose your method. It's either snowball. Now there are other avenues that you can take, like taking out a personal loan, or even if you have to, filing for bankruptcy, which I don't recommend, but I don't know much about it. I just know that it could really hurt your credit score. But those are things that you need to do more research on. If you think that you cannot handle this on your own and it's not going to work out well for you, if you try to keep going at this pace, then you might need to look at other avenues. So we have the snowball, we have the avalanche, and then we have the custom, I'll call it. So snowball is lowest balance. This is highest interest rate. And then this is choice. So those are your options. And a calculator will always help you decide what option is best for you. You can see on the calculator, like I said, how long it'll take to pay off, how much interest you're going to pay in total, and you get to see when each individual debt is paid off. The debt calculators out there are very, very useful. I loved the Vertex 42 one. When I last checked, this was completely free. There's literally just a table where you write your debts. This would be the name of your debt, the interest rate, how much you owe. I think your minimum payment is on there too. And then you would go down below and you have your initial lump payment. I think they call it an initial snowball. That's just, I got a bonus, I got overtime. When I start this debt payoff journey, I'm going to throw that $500 to my initial debt payment. And then your monthly payment. This is not the total of your minimum payments. This is how much you can afford every month to put towards your debt. So this is going to add in the little bit of extra money in your budget that you had available. So that way, on each debt that you are focusing on, you're paying above the minimum payment. And that is the goal. That is going to get you there quicker for paying off that debt and then paying off your overall debt. Paying extra is always, always helpful. And then you will get a breakdown of when your debts are going to be paid off and how much interest you owed, how long it will take. It's very, very helpful. There are so many calculators out there that some have little bits of different information, and they might have a bar graph or a pie chart or things like that. But if you can find, and actually there's a lot of debt calculators for free on other websites. I just like this one because it has the custom choice. But you can look around, and if you don't want the custom choice, if you don't care about that, you don't have a balance transfer that you have to pay off by a certain time, and you're just going to do one of these, go right ahead. There's so many out there. There's free ones, and then there's different ones on Etsy that you can also get. Anyways, it's totally up to you. I really hope that this was helpful. If you have any more questions or suggestions, definitely leave them in the comments down below. I do want to do a video using Vertex 42 with some sample debts and just show you how that's done. Anything else debt related, I would love to make a video on. And just to mention, this is so if you have any more So if you have any more debt-related questions or budget-related questions, please just leave them down below. I would love to read them and figure out what you guys are really looking for. But just to mention, I did not go to school for this. This is simply for educational purposes only. So take everything that I say and do a little research yourself, okay? Don't just follow what I'm doing and dive right in. Always, always back up everything with a little bit of research and looking around and getting information. All right, guys, I hope that you liked this. I will see you next time. Bye.